that dog in you that really wants to set yourself apart. We want to travel the world, we want to be super successful, we want to work on our own times. Who I am today can be better than who I was yesterday. Constraints breeds creativity. You've made time for that, so you have maybe a little bit less time for your business, but your goal is still the same. If I just kind of sit down and follow the status quo and follow the path that everybody's following in, I'm missing out on so much that I could actually go and create if I decide to actually take some risks. You know what? I don't give a fuck, man. Like, we're all struggling, we're all not perfect, we're all looking to improve ourselves. Like, the question I sat down and asked myself and just look at yourself in the eyes of, man, what if you do your best?
What's up, closers? Absolute banger for you here today. Last year, Phil and I had the privilege of going to the top performer trip in Mexico, Cancun, for the Student Works Management program. And while we were there, we had a chat with Olivier Grenon, one of the top coaches in the program, about his mindset and all kinds of super interesting topics. So I think you guys are gonna love it. It's an absolute banger of an episode. Make sure to drop a like, make sure to subscribe for more videos like this. And without further ado, let's jump in.
Realize, oh, like if I just do a schedule a month in advance, I break down everything that's gonna happen, and best case, worst case scenario, and we're able to just plan ahead. Dude, the pressure that comes out of your, just like the day-to-day pressure that kind of gets removed was so helpful with like, I didn't do that in the painting business. Prepare ahead, it was just like, yo, full send, let's fucking go. I know I'm gonna crush it, but now it's like, I have the overview of the next couple weeks.
Playing chess.
Welcome back to Closers Only. Oh. We're out here, Mexico, Cancun. We got our good friend Olivier Grenon. Pleasure to have you, man. Honored that you joined me and Phil today.
Hell yeah.
So we're just gonna be chatting with Olivier just about your coaching and also your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Super inspirational guy. You know, you run an awesome business, and I'm super excited to get into it.
Yes, sir.
So first question for you, Olivier. What do you think makes you such an effective coach?
To be honest, I like to give credit to how I got to this point, to the people that were coaching me. I feel like the hack in the program that we're in and you know, getting coached is kind of the duplication of, I've learned this, I'm gonna do it. For example, Patrick Lalonde is one of my coaches, Lucas Rodriguez was my coach. I think there's a lot of value that I got from how he was working with me. And I just felt like I was, okay, I'm gonna duplicate his knowledge to me, to other people. But then there's like, okay, how do you take that to a super effective level? The question that comes up to mind is like, what is an effective coach? And I'm curious to hear you guys out too. You've gotten different coaches too of what makes someone effective. Definitely leading from the front. Like, I'm gonna be out there knocking those doors. I'm gonna be making those phone calls. I'm gonna be improving every day, doing challenges. So leading from the front, I think there's a lot of conversation that can be had there, but that you need to be a figure of authority and a figure of figure of authority, bringing people with you along the journey. I think that is definitely very effective because people see that I'm not just telling them what to do and expecting them to go to different places. I'm actually in there with them and actually in the...
Olivier, you've obviously been in Student Works for a little while.
Yes.
Fourth year in the program.
2024 will be 5th year, so yeah, I did 4 years.
Nice. This is your second year as a business coach, and I think you've done like just over $3 million.
Yeah.
Most of that, honestly, in the last year.
Yeah.
Pretty well respected as, you know, one of the best coaches in the program. So really looking forward to the chat, Olivier. And, you know, I'd love to just jump off the bat and kind of ask you, you know, who is Olivier Grenon? You know, what makes you tick, and how did you get to be where you are today?
Yeah. I would probably go back right before Student Works of that dog in you that really wants to set yourself apart. I was sitting in university. I didn't really feel like this was my spot. I always felt that, I don't know, I wasn't really connecting or thinking how everybody was thinking. My friend group was a little bit more, I guess, different. We were thinking differently than, I guess, the norm or the status quo of like, you know, go to work, get a job, you know, start your career, build a family type of thing. We were like, you know what, we want to travel the world, we want to be super successful, we want to work on our own times. So that really started early on to just, you know, you change the way you see life when you want to look at it from that way. The thing is, I'm 18 years old, I have no idea how I'm going to do it, I'm working in a pharmacy, so I guess I'm going to follow the path. until I can find something that will allow me to step it up. And that's where in university started with Student Works back in 2019, and that tick started right before Student Works, which was sitting down in my room in 2019, not satisfied, man, not really happy of 2015 to 2019, well, 2015 to 2020.
To be honest, though, I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people are sitting in their bedrooms thinking, like, fuck, I could do way more than go to this 9-to-5 job. But obviously, you did set yourself apart by finding an outlet for all of that energy. What do you think in your first year? How did you feel different from your first year in StudentWorks as to before, and what was that transformation like for you? Because obviously you've come a long way since then as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But just in the first year, what was the difference there?
Yeah, exactly. So the way it kind of started at that point was I made a plan, 2020 to 2025, you know, the goals, financials, traveling, family, relationships, spirituality, and no jokes, like 2 weeks later, that's where I joined StudentWorks. Like, it was really kind of a stars aligned moment. And to me, realizing that, I was like, this is meant to be. I'm a really believer of that. Things happen for a reason. I'm gonna go all in. I'm gonna double down, and I'm gonna really make this the 2020 to 2025 jump that I want in my career, because there's no ceiling. And I believe that that jump was just a mentality switch of, this is my responsibility, man. No one's gonna do it for you. No one's gonna nobody's gonna do it for you or hold your hand while doing it. You're gonna have to put in the work required. And once I understood the model that we're in, I jumped, and I really trusted my coach and trusted that I can do anything that I really set my mind to. That's what I would say would be the first probably take of mindset. I remember back in 2020, people were kind of saying that I had a good mindset. I don't really know, like, we don't really know each other when you all start. I'm like, okay, I guess I have a good mindset, but what is my mindset and where does that come from? I think that was the mindset. It was like, yo, I'm gonna give it my all. Like, the question I sat down and asked myself, and just look at yourself in the eyes of, man, what if you do your best?
Yeah, I like that.
Like, what would that look like? Yeah. And that scared the shit out of me, to be honest. Cause, like, oh my God, did you ever actually do your best? Mm-hmm. I think that's rare. And that's what kind of, that was the thing taking me, I think, early on of, I need to prove myself here. Yeah. That was really how I think it started.
I love that. And it sounds like you were, doing your best from the time you joined the program. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I find really interesting when you kind of look at the numbers, I know your first year in the program, you ran, I think, just under $100,000 business. Yeah. And obviously, working super hard. And this last year, your team did over 1.8 million. So, obviously the only answer isn't just working harder, because you've been applying yourself the whole time. So I'd love to hear your take on how you were able to kind of step up that ladder, and ultimately as a business coach in your current role, what do you think it is that makes you so effective at that role?
Sure. The biggest jump, moving from doing about 85K in revenue and jumping to 300K in revenue was literally leverage. But then it's like, okay, how am I going to get people to want to work as hard as I want to work, but for me and not for themselves? Oof, like, that was a tough question to answer early on, and that's where you create your identity, and that's where I think really labeling who I wanted to show up as and being clear on the habits you want to have, the way you want to think, how you want to perceive yourself, that transitions with the relationships you build. And that came from a lot of learning from my coach, Lucas, who was probably more a friend than a coach and a friend. And that kind of translation between coaching and friendship allowed me to realize, oh wow, imagine you work with someone that you look up to, but you can also be friends with and be authentic with them. Mm-hmm. What would that look like if I create that for other people? So I think that biggest kind of first transition to enrolling people and coming into my business was making them realize we're gonna do this together while building a relationship. We're also gonna build this fat business. And that started back in 2020, enrolling my first production manager, Lucas, who I was like, okay, if I can now do this with this person, well, we'll just duplicate that and find that kind of person or find that mindset in other people. And I would definitely say that what makes an effective coach, one of the first aspects will be that being able to build great relationships, right? You want to have people in your team that look up to you and that want to be like you in certain areas of your life. Therefore, they're really going to be open and swallow the information you give to them, absorb it. And that was definitely something that I realized throughout the different years of seeing also a bunch of people getting coached by a bunch of people, and a lot of times the most effective operators were the people that had the best relationships with their coach.
Totally. What are some other characteristics of like a good leader, you would say? Or at least the ones that you leaned into the most?
For sure.
So someone that you look up to, someone that kind of leads from the front?
Yeah, definitely that. I think I want to see, if I'm getting coached, I'm getting led by someone, I want to see them work hard. I want to see them struggle. I want to see them also kind of a part of this whole idea of we're working hard, we're getting better, and we're improving. I was really grateful, basically my whole 4 years of seeing Lucas Rodriguez, who was my coach, also learning, also with that relationship aspect of things, sharing with me his struggles and sharing with me what he was going through, and that he was not perfect, man. And he was also wanting to learn, reading more, learning more. And that made me realize, okay, I'm also going to duplicate that aspect of one of the first things I make people realize is I'm probably going to work harder than you as a coach, than you are as an operator, because I want to continue paving the way. A few times with top operators, I probably even told you that, like, keep paving the way, because we are the guys in the trenches that are opening the door for other people to come in, but opening your door. So I think, like, being an effective coach is building your own path. Like, we can all do the same thing, but it won't be as effective. So I was like, okay, I need to figure out what is going to be my path that I want to build. I'm not sure early on, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to work super hard, ask a lot of questions, stay coachable, and lead from the front while building strong relationships with my team. So I think that probably would be like the two most important things that I figured out in those last couple years by observing, different people, and by just myself being like, okay, I guess we're going to go that way, and figure out my way throughout the different years, and just adjusting with time. Like that would probably be, I guess, how I would start to answer that question
so
here.
Leading from the front, building a solid relationship, and just putting in the work yourself, showing people kind of what's possible, opening up the doors for them to kind of follow suit.
And at this stage now, you've built confidence, right? I saw people go from, let's say, the classic 18-year-old, doesn't have a lot of money, doesn't have a lot of confidence in themselves, but have big ambitions, and take that person from, regular, quote-unquote, university student to running over $100,000, $200,000 in business. And now, having seen that multiple times, I really take a lot of pride in being able to tell myself, I want to be the person that's going to push you the most. I want to be able to push you to limits that you don't even know are available, that you don't really see yet, because I see further than you. So, when you're talking about paving the way, well, I'm seeing what you're going to go through, because I've done it. I did work my ass off for the last couple years. So now, today, I can really say I take pride mostly here in Mexico. Like, the people that are on this trip, 7 out of the 11 guys I was coaching are on this trip, to me, which is just amazing. And I remember very clearly the conversations of, hey man, I'm gonna get your ass in Mexico. You might not see it yet, you might not know how we're gonna do it, but if you trust me, I will push you. It might not be easy, it might not be fun at all times, but the mindset of like, hate me now, love me in Mexico, and being able to not being scared of pushing people and not being liked in a conversation, but just calling you out straight up, eye to eye, but then, planting those seeds. So I think that was like one of the big things of, what, I'm not scared of just pushing people, calling them out, being able to tell them the hard truths of the person you are today isn't making the cut, man. You don't, and that's just truth. And I remember that started with Lucas Bono that I hired, that production manager I was saying. I told him, hey man, like the person you are right now does not fit in a $300,000 business. I'm gonna go and do that. You hop on the boat and you change, you're willing to absorb information, you're willing to ask questions, you're willing to eat a little bit of shit, or you can stay in your path and I'll find someone else. And just let him take that choice. And most of the people who I gave that choice decided to take the path, because they're like, how many people in my life told me that? Right? How many people in their lives allowed them to, okay, I guess I'm gonna go and do it, allowed them to think that way, allowed them to be a little bit scared. And I just realized that, oh wow, well, there's not a lot of coaches out there who genuinely want people, well, I guess at 18, 19-year-old, probably more in the future, but who genuinely want to push people for the sake of pushing them while pushing myself. So I think once I realized that, I'm like, wow, well, I'll just kind of use that path for different people. I'll adjust the way I say it, for sure. Some people will be a bit more, calm, cool, collected, but some people I'll just fire those bullets, close the conversation, call them out the next day, and they're like, whoa. Like last night I was reflecting on that, and this morning I did, I don't know, my cold shower, and tonight I'm gonna do my 4 hours of door-to-door. That all comes from the coach not being scared of, telling them the hard truth, being transparent, authentic with them, and showing them that you need to improve if you want to reach bigger and bigger and bigger goals. So I think that's pretty, that's one really core piece of being an effective coach, is being that role model for people and not being kind of scared of the opinions of people with that.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful too. And also one thing you were saying, the idea of kind of letting someone know, like, hey, the person you are today right now is not capable of running a $250,000 business. And that's okay. The person you are today is not going to be the person you are in a year from now when you've ran a $250,000 business. So I think that's really powerful, just accepting that, like, who you are today is not perfect. It is not the person who runs a huge business, and that's okay, because we're going to grow together.
But at that point, it's also, by the way, the person I am today is also not going to run a $2 million business this year. And this is how I see my improvement getting to that point. And this is how I see your improvement getting to that point. So they also see, like we were just talking, that correlation. Okay, he's going to work on those things. I'm going to work on those things. And that should, based off the stats, based off the numbers that we look at, we break down stats. And if we follow that path, we're going to make it. I remember one thing that really stuck when I was planning of running that big business, that 300K business. I was scared. And the whole idea was, hey man, we have a plan. Doesn't it seem simple of, hey man, let's break down the plan. If you hit every single commitment, you're gonna hit that goal. Don't think too much. Just stay dialed in and follow that plan. So that's kind of the mindset also I wanted to bring to the operators of, here's my plan, here's how I'm gonna do it. I don't want you to do my plan. I want you to do your plan. I'm gonna help you do your plan. I'm gonna help you steer that wheel. But if you follow that plan, the improvements will be exponential. And that's really what we're seeing now with the amount of people that are able to succeed so much in this model, basically.
Totally. Something that I'm also interested in as a listener, and maybe some other people, it seems like you do have a lot of intent with the things that you do. You're very intentional with your coaching. You're likely very intentional in running your own business. At the end of the day, what would you say what makes you tick? Why do you do all this? Why do you wake up in the morning and actually decide to work as hard as you want to work?
Yeah, I think about that a lot, and it's tough to answer I'm not at the point where I think I can give you a straight answer of just like one sentence to get there, but what comes up to mind, my first words is like duty and responsibility, and that I feel like I don't have a choice. And the reason why I think is interesting, because the way I was raised was very good family, very good values, integrity. Like my dad's the guy that if you have an appointment at 7, he's gonna be there at 6:15. No stress. Nobody's gonna know, but he's gonna be there in advance. You're never gonna be late. And I think I saw that it was gonna be easy for me to be very comfortable with that, because I could just, follow the regular path and I'm gonna be very good. Money, family, relationships, sports, etc. I was always in a good spot. But you realize at one point the difference between being good and being great. And I'm like, wait a second. After analyzing a lot of people, after realizing what people have done way more than what I was doing with way less.
Right.
And I was like, how is that possible, right? Like
a little bit of competitiveness.
Yeah, that comes from sports also. That I would definitely add that to the answer, also of being a competitor. But just, when you're sitting down and you're analyzing the greats in this world, a lot of them had nothing when they started. And I was like, oh wow, well, I'm considering myself that I have a lot. So how can I kind of transition out and kind of jump in their boat? And it was really the fact that, you know what? I'm gonna be the guy that had everything set up, and I'm gonna use that and just triple down. Totally. So what made me tick is that my family was built in a very great way, and I'm so grateful. And imagine what would be possible if I use that and exponentially make it greater.
Sounds like you want to just like max out your potential. You just want to max out your stats. You don't want to have anything left on the table.
100%. And that also comes with, like, I speak a lot about it, but with the family aspect of things, of seeing my grandpa, who was a hustler in the fields, man, just like working, almost like a workaholic, who transitioned out to my father, who also is just a very big workhorse, very stoic, very calm, cool, collected. And I was like, wow, well, imagine I use all those skills and that knowledge, plus all the help that they're giving me and the support that I had. I can just sit my ass here and do nothing about it, but that's not what I wanted. I'm like, you know what? If I'm gonna wanna make them proud, I'm gonna 10x that. And actually, I was listening to 10x like 2018 probably, and I was like, what if I just try to 10x everything in my life? And then I realized, well, I found an environment where I can use all of that and be competitive, but also put like the Grenon name on the map and really be that kid who will forever change what you are known as a Grenon. I got that tatted on me actually. That was actually one of the first, like my first tattoo was that, and it was that whole idea of
put your name on the map.
Yeah, put my name on the map, and I keep telling my dad that since I'm young, but
you're gonna represent him.
Yeah, I'm gonna represent them. Je suis la relève. I'm not sure what that is in English, but je vais être la relève, and I'll fucking make you proud. And I'll make you more proud than what you think being proud of is, because I can just stop and they're so proud, but I don't feel like it's enough. So I think it's keeping.
What is that enough?
Barrier.
What is that 10-year plan? Do you have one?
So, what's interesting with typically thinking that way, the way I saw it before was like an end goal, and I wanted to reach that end goal. For example, the $300,000 goal I set. And what happened at that point is that as soon as I reached it, I got complacent or like, oh, now I made it. I don't see it that way anymore. I don't think there's an end goal. So I think to this day, what I would see the 10-year plan be, I love what I'm doing. This is amazing, being able to have such great relationships. The actual work that I do as a business coach full-time now today is something I genuinely am so blessed to do. So I want to keep doing that for a few years and develop myself even more, because I'm realizing that I'm not as good as I think I am. We were talking about re-listening to conversations. When I do re-listen to conversations, I always find things to improve on. And I also am realizing by asking my mentors what I can work on, that there's so much to go. Right. So to me, I'm staying in this environment probably for the next couple of years in terms of the student works environment. I took a really big leap now being a senior coach. I see myself actually leading the whole province of Quebec in the next couple of years, coaching every single coach in the province and really putting the Quebec on the map, as it should be. What's going to be that transition out of that? I'm not sure. I do think I'll probably stay somewhere in that kind of circle or environment. Met so many great people. So many of my friends are still in that environment of started off from student works, and then I really see, because like the way I see goal setting is going to be with how do I see main aspects of life to this day, which are your work, your love, and your energy. And if in all of those areas your goal is just to continuously improve, and as one of my coaches, Cam Russell, would say, closing the gap between who I'm capable of being and who I'm currently being, and aiming for mastery. So if I'm focusing on those things in those aspects of work, which would be relationships, which would be building a family, which will be my friends, loving yourself also, just that could take a few years of just actually loving yourself. And then with work, which would be, yes, there's the work that we're doing with our career, but there's also our bigger work in life, or our purpose of things that we want to leave here. I think that second aspect is there of work. So right now it's with student works. Later on, I think it's going to be very similar of impacting people, of being able to build businesses, paving the way, being able to help people reach their potential through me reaching mine. And then energy, which is just constantly improving your fitness, your health, your diet, your mindset, your diet. There's so much, your mobility, there's so much also that goes into there. Now there's a lot of people talking about biohacking and living longer. That also is a whole thing in itself. So I see the next 10 years continuously working on those three main pillars and taking them as far as I can. Nice. By just continuously understanding that who I am today can be better than who I was yesterday, and I can also improve tomorrow. I know we spoke about that, but I can only focus on now. So what I'm gonna do today, today I'm gonna work on my communication skills, I'm gonna meditate a little bit to work on my focus, and I'm gonna eat super good just to have great energy. And tomorrow I'll focus on maybe calling a few people to keep those relationships up. And in 2 weeks, I'll be focusing a little bit more, let's say, on the love life, and I'll go have a few conversations with women, for example, that would be interested. So I think it's like having those three pillars entangled in different times of the years. And
sounds
the
like
10-year vision would just be to drive that as far as I can.
Super intentional about actually putting effort into those pillars.
Yeah.
And obviously it's going to grow a lot more if you have that focus.
What's up, closers? Sorry to interrupt the pod. You might be wondering what's going on here. Why are we painting on the walls? Or if you're just listening, you probably have no idea. But as you can see, this is the new office that I just started renting for the year. Gonna be running my business here as well as doing the podcast. So Big Phil and I are committed to dropping 50 episodes of Closers Only for you guys this year. Super excited, basically an episode a week. And this is gonna be where the magic is happening. This is gonna be the studio. Hopefully it looks a little bit nicer in the future episodes. But if you're excited, if you're liking anything on this podcast, there's anybody specific you wanna see, anything like that, drop us a like, subscribe, thumbs up, and especially give me feedback. Give us some feedback on, you know, what we can be doing better on the episodes. And, you know, feedback is a breakfast of champions, and closers only.
Some motivation to do it. You know, you got some nice tools.
Yeah. 100%.
Like Wil buying a camera.
Yeah, buying the camera definitely got us kind of locked in.
100%.
Spent a bunch of money, so, you know, now we have to do it. I think I actually bought into the same program, same health and fitness program that you did.
Yep.
A lot of it for the same reason. It's very expensive, and I know if I put my money into something like that, then I'm not going to want to let it go to waste.
That's it.
So,
well, it was the same thing, let's say, with that. And with a lot of things, I try to set myself up of kind of pre-committing to something. So I'm going to, let's say, make a commitment of, now in this case, it's like materialistic, but now that I have that, how many days are you going to look at that without taking action? And that's one thing, like I'll just slap either a picture or either an object, either a thought process, like onto, let's say, a whiteboard or someplace that you have your own, like, I don't know, like little self-reflection part of the day. Let's say a to-do list or whatever it is, but how many days are you really gonna look at that to-do list and not take action? And that would early on take maybe weeks, or, you know, the aspect of procrastination. And what if you just remove that and just do it right away? So like, let's say, for example, in this case, buy a microphone. Well, the first day I came out, filmed my first video that day, made a commitment. I'm gonna post every single week on every single platform for the next X amount of years. Oh shit, now I put the pre-commitment in the world. How am I gonna go about it doing that? Perfect, well, I'm gonna hire a company that's gonna help me here. I'm gonna think about ideas here and just like, once again, pre-plan yourself with intent of what's gonna be, in 5 years, what am I gonna look back at that I'm gonna be happy I did? Well, I'm gonna be happy I made those pre-commitments early on of, let's say, I don't know, like filming content or thinking more actually, or taking more actions on certain things. So I think that's a sweet correlation of using materials to do that. You don't need to, no, I don't think this is anything about the materialistic aspect of things, but I think there's definitely value in kind of setting yourself up of, I like to expose those things I wanna work on in my face, and it really like, it fucks with me if I leave it there for too long and I see it like, even like after a couple of days sometimes, hey man, like everything that's gonna take less than 5 minutes, I do it right away. Like, let's just get it done right away. Procrastination just doesn't exist. Or plan it. Spend time to plan it. And I believe my integrity's gotten to a point where if I plan it, I'm gonna do it. 100%. So I think that was like one of the examples of that for sure.
I love that. And I'd be super curious to hear, because obviously, you know, Phil and I are kind of on the same page. You know, we're trying to start getting into content, you know, filming some podcasts with guys like you. And, you know, I've got a lot of reasons why I'm doing it. And I'd love to hear what your reasons are. Like, why did you decide to make the jump into making content? And what do you see as kind of the long-term plan with content? How do you see it helping you in your life and providing value?
100%. And it's funny, if I go way back, ask any of the boys that know me, I have pictures and videos of like everything. Since I'm literally, my first BlackBerry, I was 16 years old, I would clip things, I have a YouTube channel where we would do challenges, we would do like cinnamon challenge and flower challenge and pranks and like falling in public and those types of challenges. Back in the day, I was even like dancing, a bunch of views on social media. I was kind of like the popular kid in high school, like posting a lot, having a bunch of shares and likes and stuff like that. But it kind of left. And you know where it left? It left where I cared a lot about how I looked like. So I rather like almost post less and only post when I look good, where I feel good, where everything's almost perfect. And then I kind of built an image of, not perfection, but like, oh, he seems to have his shit figured out type of image.
Who do you think people wanted to see?
Yeah. And kind of one of the identities I wanted to see myself up, but not like the actual true picture. And I sat there and realized, like, man, like that was also a struggle in coaching. So, like, I can go on for long on that, but then I realized, okay, well, look, I've been helping a lot of people getting to really great spots in their lives over the last couple of years, and I don't have like, I haven't documented that enough. And I feel like a conversation I can have with you this morning, I'm gonna have that same conversation with 3 other people in the next year. But if I actually documented that conversation or documented that lesson or documented that value, I can save myself a lot of time and save other people also a lot of time over the next 2, 3, or 4 years. So I think that was the first mindset overall of, well, just start documenting everything.
Totally. Will's doing that. He's gonna make a bunch of videos for his crews.
Yeah.
And his painters and his crew chiefs, and they're gonna be able to watch the videos, and it just saves them so much time.
You tell them the same things every day. So
yeah, leveraging yourself through content.
100%.
Pretty much.
I think that the first piece of mindset was really that of like, man, imagine I just record every single thing I do in the program, and I keep coming back. Well, I'm just gonna be able to use that and kind of work on top of it.
Yeah,
then,
watch this video.
Yeah, exactly. And then ask me your questions. Come prepared.
Yeah,
and I'll
yeah.
give you extra value type of thing.
Yeah.
Do the work and I'll help you. You are driving the car, I'm gonna help you steer the wheel. I'm not gonna drive the car for you. So
Yeah.
like in the coaching aspect, that was one of the things. But then it was like, okay, like what about the bigger picture of actually posting on social media? And I think we also have similar people that we look up to that talk a lot about, well, it even started back in the day with Gary Vee that was just telling us so much of just like document, post. And I was still, I think, in that stage of being kind of scared of what I was looking like, or what are people gonna think, or what if I mumble a little bit, or what if I don't know, I have something in my teeth, you know, all those questions. I think a lot of us actually ask the first time we get on camera, and we just put ourselves out there. And that's where I, you know, to make this long story short, got to the point where, you know what, I don't give a fuck, man.
Sure.
Like, we're all struggling, we're all not perfect, we're all looking to improve ourselves, and why don't we do it together and be able to capture that?
Yeah.
And look back in 2, 3, 4 years and look at those moments where we were grinding those first videos, those first recordings of estimates, or those first painter videos you're gonna make in 3, 4, 5 years. You're gonna laugh, go, oh my God, like look how far I've came. And that habit was built now over the last couple months of, first of all, documenting everything, recording myself often, also of how I feel, what I'm thinking, and now it just transitions to also filming it, to actually capture the emotions, capture the moment, and it will transition now into being actually able to give out so much value out there while improving myself. That was my mindset. Look, I watch videos, Alex Hormozy, for example, but he's way ahead of where I want to be. And I was trying to find people who were kind of like people I could relate more with, that they're also, you know, maybe in a similar age group, maybe wanting to do similar things, maybe in similar situations. And I haven't found a lot of those. And also in Quebec, like Français, Québécois, people that who are going at it. There's a few that I have in mind for sure, and I respect them, and they inspired me to actually just put myself out there and start putting in the work in that aspect. And I wanted to just be able to be that man for the 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, or even more people that are like, hey, I love what you're up to. I didn't know that that's what you were doing. And I didn't really realize how amazing what we were doing is until the most random people start realizing, oh my God, like what you're doing
that
is...
it's even possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one big point too, of showing them it's 100% possible. I'm no different than where you are. We have pros and cons, maybe the way we were born and raised and etc. But it was just like, you know what? I'm gonna also want to pave the way, just like we were talking earlier, but in the social media aspect of who cares, you know, what I look like, who cares what I guess look like in that moment. I'm gonna push through with that and just let the compound effect work with itself. And now, I kid you not, 95% of the people I meet, I love what you're doing, I love the content that you're putting out, like you're inspiring me to maybe do the same, or those types of conversations. Now we're able to build relationships on that, now we're sitting on a podcast, you know, like all of that just comes from making the first decision of, I'm not gonna care anymore of what I'm gonna look like, because I'm doing that type of work behind the scenes anyways every single day. So why don't I just post those things on social media? Like the first time I posted a coaching conversation, I was so nervous, bro. I was trying to clip like every single right questions I asked, or where I was not like, the posture wasn't too bad. Then I was like, man, like it ain't that deep, brother. Like what you're doing is amazing. Just gotta trust yourself, put it out there. And some guy at one point is right now scrolling on social media, is gonna fall on this video, he's gonna text me. I know that I can bring him into the funnel, and if things make sense, his life will be totally changed, and the lives of everybody around him. And when you keep getting yourself reminded to that, I'll post 2 times more, because I'm like, I'll go get 2 of those, 3 of those. And what is that gonna look like in 10 years, boys? It's gonna be millions of people like that. And I'm just so glad that we're capturing those things today in 2023, because I had those thoughts also coming in 2020, 2021, 2022, but it was not as captured. I have like notes and goals I was setting up to myself, but now this is pure proof of, you know, what we're going to build, and actually doing, like, kind of capturing it while we're building. And that's really what I was looking for as creating content and social media, and just sharing, I guess, my experience of, you know, self-improvement, developing myself, and those aspects, you know, of work, health, and energy that I was mentioning, being able to enroll others to just kind of all do it together.
That's awesome.
Like what I would say.
And I think it's sweet that you're kind of already seeing some of the results from your content. You're already having people reaching out to you. And, you know, I know one of the things for me in starting to post content, I knew that objectively the content wasn't going to be that great when I started. And like, why the fuck would it be great? Because we're just starting.
Yeah.
Right? But if I know that one day I would love to be able to create awesome content to provide so much value to other people, because I have a belief that the more value I provide to other people, the more it's going to come back to me. And also, it's just, as a human, I want to be able to provide value, impact the world around me. And so if that's a great way to do it, then why not start working towards it today? Because the first, 1,000 videos you film are probably going to suck.
I know.
But if you can, if you can impact, 1 or 2 people, that's great. And even more importantly, at least for me, it's really developing the skill of, being able to record great content, being able to put out awesome value to people, for people internally on your team, externally, potentially marketing to customers, even just, podcasts like this, just trying to get some value to some other students and people like that. So, I think it's awesome that you're kind of thinking about it a similar way. And I think it's awesome that you're already getting some, results from it.
100%. And by the way, just what you guys are doing inspires me to go and continue and start my own podcast that I've been thinking about for a long time. It's just like, hey, it's actually pretty straightforward. We just sit down and we have those conversations every day. We're able to just clip it. So I think it really comes down to breaking down the barriers and realizing what was that resistance that you might have. If you are genuine about what you're just saying right now, and you are, and I know you are, and you seem to be for sure, then like what was holding us back all this time? And I'm curious, what was holding you back if you had that thought process for a couple years?
Yeah, it's a good question. I honestly wanted to do podcasting for probably the last couple of years. I've been thinking about it, and never pulled the trigger. And then eventually I was just chatting with Phil, and I was like, dude, I want to start this podcast. Like, would you want to jump in with me? And he was like, yeah, of course. That sounds sick. And then I think it's easier doing it with someone else because it just feels like it's less pressure,
Totally. And like Will was saying, just getting better at it. Yeah. And also, I love having conversations with Will. I feel like every time I step away from it, we kind of level up, maybe like 1%, 0.01%, but every time it's good. So just setting a structure up in place so that we have to have a conversation. Even, I'm sure your videos almost inspire yourself. Because you can't post a video saying, go fucking get it, you're going to get this money, like every single day grind, and then go take a nap. Like, that's just not going to happen.
I know. That's probably one of the biggest struggles at this point, too, of the potential hypocrisy that comes with...
Well, you can't be a hypocrite. Man, you have to hit that standard.
It's tough. But what comes up to mind, too, is okay, the thing was holding you back was just pulling the trigger. Well, that first question that comes up to mind is okay, what other triggers have I just not pulled yet that are right there that I would want to pull? And that comes with the intent of, why don't we just sit down and write those things and fucking pull the trigger, man? And because there's going to be new ones that are going to pop up, but there's not going to be new ones if we don't clear the ones that are there currently. So that's kind of in that self-improvement thing. It's kind of like finishing what I've started or finishing old thoughts that I had to be able to create new ones. I really struggled with always wanting to create new things. Yeah, I'll jump in here, I'll jump in there. But man, there's 20 ideas you haven't worked on in the last couple of years that are still on that whiteboard or that mental whiteboard we were mentioning earlier that I haven't pulled the trigger on. For me, it was like training jiu-jitsu, getting super healthy, actually working out a lot, posting social media, learning Spanish. There's a lot of those things that I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna start a new thing until I close those first doors. So now I have a structure in place where, well, now it's to know, is that actually a thing I really wanna do? If I do, let's pull the trigger right away. What can I start right now? What's the first action I can take to then trickle down to getting to this stage here to allow ourselves to actually move forward as fast as possible. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I'd be super curious to hear because, from the sounds of it, you've got lots of ideas, lots of things you want to do. And, obviously action is important. However, there's only a certain number of hours in the day and a certain amount of energy you can dedicate to something. And in my experience, I found that sometimes just going all in on something for a season, a period of time, whether it's 2 months, 6 months, 2 years, can be really helpful. And just saying, hey, I know that I want to do all these other things, and it's okay that I'm not going to even think about them for now. So how do you see that? And how do you decide what makes sense to kind of jump into versus putting on the back burner versus dropping entirely?
Oh, wow, that's such a great question. I also am still kind of trying to figure it out. And this year, coaching has allowed me to also kind of have that mindset of being a bit more in the back and kind of plant different seeds in different spots. So I kind of choose which times of the year I'm going to take actions on which things, because we can't just say, okay, we're going to start a podcast, for example, and not be consistent with it. So I think it's understanding I had a good conversation, one very impactful conversation with my coach. I'm going to ask you guys a question here. How do you commit to something? What is commitment? Let's say we're going to commit to making a podcast. How do you commit to something? Okay, so what do you think?
It's a good question. I think one of the things that I've really learned in this program is integrity with your word.
Yeah.
So if I say something, then I have to actually do it.
Yeah.
Or else over time, I'm just diminishing my integrity. And then when I say something, I know internally, hey, I might do this, I might not. Yeah. And other people as well see me commit to something and then not do it, and they're gonna, not really take me seriously. And so, letting that go and just, if I say something, I'm gonna do it. So one, it's holding me more accountable to actually doing this stuff, and two, it's making me think deeper before saying something. Because I know there's been times in my life, especially when I was younger, I'd say, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and then, I wouldn't do it. And now I'm like, if I am gonna say something, I need to make sure I actually am able to do it. I actually can make time in my calendar to do it. I can take action, make intention towards that. So I think verbal commitment is really important.
I also think just like not giving yourself any outs. Verbal commitment is one way of doing that, because now you're being held by other people. But I really like the idea of going all in on something. So if you're gonna start training, just like set aside time and you're training every day, and you have people who are holding you accountable. If you want to run a business, like some people might disagree, but I would just drop everything else in terms of like income, and then just be like, all right, I gotta fucking make this work. Otherwise, just making it so that you don't have any other options would be a way to commit in my life.
And I thought that too. I actually dropped out of school to go all in into student works.
Yeah, me too, bro.
But that was kind of the mindset. Like plan A, there's no plan B, dude. I gotta make it work.
Put everything on plan A.
So like, okay, now coming back to that aspect of commitment, my answer, that I took away from that conversation was, I kind of, before your answers would be understanding what does it actually take. So let's say now talking about, we'll use the example of the podcast. Before I want to make a commitment, or when I want what I want to choose, I'm going to take action on, let's say on a quarterly basis or yearly basis or weekly basis, I would just break that commitment down to the small, simple actions that it takes. Now we understood that with the model that we have with the business, we can break it down to how many doors we're going to hit, how many hours we're going to do per week, how many employees do we need. And then it's like, okay, like if I want to hit that certain goal, understanding what it takes, and then basically committing to it with an all-in mindset. So I think all of that really fits together, and that's kind of how I'm gonna mentally plan out different commitments. With that being said, I also know that I can't commit to certain things if it doesn't make sense what I'm willing to give for it. So for example, like the content was something that if it was gonna take twice more time that it was gonna take in my schedule, I actually couldn't commit to it, because I couldn't commit to it on a consistent enough kind of basis that would make sense, not just for the next 2 months, but for the next 50 years of my life. So now when I'm thinking about what actions I'm gonna take on, I try to just look at it on the long term also, of where does it fit long term, but broken down into where does it fit in the next month, for example. And with the schedule that I'm able to build basically with my job, I can choose, I guess, which parts I'm just gonna not work on the business, but actually work on something else, which is still considered work. Because in the work, love, and energy mindset, doing this is your work, right? There's other things than just the business, and that's where I was trapped in the last couple of years of, if I work, I gotta make some phone calls, I gotta work on the business. Well, no, this is also a part of our work, man. This is gonna be a part of the impacts we're gonna have. Therefore, when choosing to, let's say, commit to this, commit to the healthy lifestyle, commit to hours of gyms every single week, committing to have conversations, accountability calls, full-on hours just alone with your own thoughts. All those small commitments, commitment to full days with the family every single week or two, commitment to every single Saturday being with my boys. Like that kind of commitment is understood because that's something that I want to do long term. It fits, and I'm willing to kind of sacrifice a part of my work for, I think, the bigger picture aspect of things. So just to loop back, that's really to answer back to your question, is mindfulness on, I guess, first, second order, and third order consequence of, if I commit to this, am I actually going to be able to stick through with my word the whole way through? And then once you understand what it takes, well, I'm going to commit to it. And if I have something that might be holding me back that I'll replace, I'm definitely willing to go all in, because I'm a big believer also that you're going to get out of it what you're going to put in. And if we double down in this thing, you can take it as far as you want. So that's kind of probably the mindset that goes into making those types of commitments on a day-to-day, and figuring out actually which one goes before the other one, right? That was also a big thing. Like going all in into work, I sacrificed a lot of my health, a lot of my relationships. And I had to sit down and realize, man, I'm gonna ruin those relationships, and I'm gonna ruin my fucking health if I don't switch that mindset around of, I cannot go in and run this size business if I'm not sleeping well, if I'm not eating well, if I'm not moving well, if I don't have great relationships, it just won't work. It won't be sustainable. It might be sustainable for 2 months, for 3 months, but I think we've seen it just, our season's super short, and I don't think it works at that extent, so it's just now switching the priorities. So I guess the takeaway here would be understanding what your priorities are of, let's say, energy, health, relationships, maybe for you it's financials, maybe for you it's swimming, man, whatever it is for you that needs to happen to then be able to perform at my best at work. That's kind of like, now looking back, what I would answer would probably be that, with the whole mindset of commitment that would come into that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it sounds like your pillars are, actually, why don't you just share your pillars again? Because I'd love to get your take in general just on the concept of work-life balance.
Yeah.
I know I have some pretty strong opinions on it and what that means for me, and I know lots of people have lots of different opinions on what that means. So I'd just love to hear, like, what do you think about the idea of like work-life balance, and what does that mean to you?
Like, I definitely want to just start off by saying how grateful I am that I'm able to also kind of think that way, and I'm not trapped in a way that it's not my decision. Like, I choose what mindset I'm gonna have, I choose how I'm gonna take action on it, and I choose with who and at what time. Just that, I laugh. I'm like, just that, I don't care how much money I make, those like 4 things right there are just like so blessed. So that's one thing I just want to start with, just like the overall gratitude that you'll have going into those types of days and those types of hustles is just, I'm so grateful to be able to make those types of decisions. Therefore, I want to double down and make the best out of it, just with the exact same mindset I have with the family. For example, it was good, but let's make it great. Well, this kind of environment is good, so let's make the best out of it and make it great. Now, with the whole like work-life balance aspect of things, I thought when I was young, and what I see a lot in our society is, look, I'm gonna work so I can chill. I'm gonna work so I can take vacations. I'm gonna work my fucking whole life so then I can be free. Then I'll travel. Then I'll start working on my health. And I've seen a lot of that going on, of like kind of I'll work till I'm retired and I'll be free till I'm retired. And that actually was just really not something I just didn't relate with that. And we were talking about that actually a couple days ago, of like 4-hour work week. And that book, I remember reading it maybe 5-6 years ago, of the aspect of like mini retirements. And he was talking about that, like the new rich is the person who won't wait to retire, but will allow himself to retire every year. So just that like slight difference has allowed me to actually now travel every single year and feel like I'm actually kind of being able to just have the life I would want to have in 50 years today. And that's really like the biggest
you're already
thing.
rich. You're not like working to get this X amount of dollars so that you can do X things. You're just living the life you want to live with intention now.
Being rich is a state of mind, and that's really kind of my mindset. And that came from Russ of, being rich is a state of mind. You can choose to have that type of mindset. So now just looking at the work-life balance, work is a part of my life, man. The health, all of that is a part of my life. I don't show up to work. I'm working right now, man. When we're brushing our teeth, we're working. Did you actually brush your teeth or did you skip it? Well, that was a part of your work, right? Or whatever it is for you, those types of habits. Yeah. Tying your shoes before you go to the gym, well, you know that's the habit you're gonna have to have. And as soon as those shoes are tied, I'm going out for my run. I'm going out to the gym. So it's kind of like seeing everything as, what if our health was work and we were getting compensated? It's not because there's money inside of it that it has to be different. And I think that's just the mindset switch that I wanna allow people to have, that we attach so much, like work, I work to make money. No, I work to improve myself. I work to have purpose. I work to be able to be happy in life. And you're not gonna be happy in the future if you're not fucking happy right now. And I think when that kind of realization happened, I'm like, damn, okay, well, before making a new commitment with that kind of whole mindset idea, I'm now gonna make authentic and kind of planned out decisions on what I'm gonna go and do. And it's all a part of one. I cannot be successful in life, let's say the financial aspects of things, if I don't keep the relationships I have with my family, for example. So
I feel like that's something that a rookie in the student works management program, or someone who just started running a business, does not see. That was probably one of my biggest blind spots in my first year, is that I didn't understand the value of keep maintaining relationships, maintaining physical and mental health while running the business. I kind of thought it was all or none. And in my past year, it was a lot more effective when I was actually taking care of my health and maintaining my relationships.
But what changed? Because we're also saying to go to have the all-in mindset. So like, that's where there's kind of sometimes
it just wasn't
a little
sustainable, man. And like, probably the relationships was what was most where I saw the most impacts, but I didn't really talk to my family that much, and my relationship with my girlfriend just definitely deteriorated because of it. I have a twin brother, and I probably didn't see him for like 3 months straight, which is ridiculous because realistically he should be my best friend, and he's going to be the one who's going to be able to help me grow, and I'm just kind of missing out on all of that growth. So it was not like an intervention, but people were like, Phil, where have you been? And now that I actually have made time for things like podcasts and made time to go to the gym and made time to hang out with people, I do see myself to be a more functional business person as well.
And constraints breeds creativity. You've made time for that, so you have maybe a little bit less time for your business, but your goal is still the same. So you're gonna have to figure out ways to make it happen. Use the leverage we're talking about and just look at it now. Okay, what if I have 10 hours less in my week, but I still want to go and accomplish the same thing? There's a version of you that does it.
Yeah,
so
and those 10 hours are going to be more effective.
Exactly.
Like the 1 hour that I hang out with my friend, I know I need to make that 1 hour pretty fucking awesome because like otherwise it's just a waste of my time.
100%. Yeah, I like that.
Speaking of friends, actually, I had a question for you. I know you live with Lucas, who was your business coach at one point. What's it like living with your coach, and what's it like living around people who have been helping you kind of level up in that way?
You know, we're all, I think, very aware of we're a product of our environment, and I was very comfortable living at home. Like I said, I have a very successful family that's doing amazing. I could probably just stay there and be just so happy my whole life. But I want more out of it, just like we were talking a bit earlier. And I was like, okay, like I want to, actually, I was living alone before Student Works. I was 19 years old. I was living alone in my apartment. I think that was probably the biggest switch. I didn't mention that early on.
Too.
That was probably the biggest switch of being stuck alone and not happy with myself for so long and seeing that whiteboard with things not getting done. So I think that was like the biggest switch. But I came back to my parents' place to run the business near our turfs. And now it's been, 3 years I've been living there. I'm making great money. I've built so many relationships, and I can allow myself to actually kind of step it up. And I feel like you aren't really gonna jump into adulthood if you don't take that leap of actually leave your parents' place and go figure shit out. So that was for sure my mindset of like, okay, now it's that time. I've been doing this for a few years now. I want to go and figure this shit out. And it just turns out that one of the person that was also looking to change, actually he was changing roommates, which was Lucas, who was my coach. And the relationship we built over the last couple of years was just so amazing. He was now transitioning to almost being more my friend. We've traveled together. We've bought real estate together. Also, we're now business partners. Also, with Lucas, with Hugo, with one of my best friends, also Sam. Big shout out to them. I love them so much. And to me, it was like a non-negotiable that I remember looking at a few people in Student Works also who were living with the boys and just hustling together and grinding together. And I was like, wow, like I want that to wake up and be like, shit, like. He's gonna do this today, I'm gonna need to step it up. That type of mindset of kind of self-accountability. I don't even need to tell him, or doesn't even need to tell me. I just know that the fact that he's there, he's gonna know if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And to me, to just be able to even have that type of living space was just, I wanna jump in, I wanna get this like right away. So that happened now about a year ago, that I was able to actually be very opportunistic to live with the person who brought me to this place, Lucas. And now, like, how is it to basically be in that environment? I think the value that you can get out of the environment would definitely be that aspect of just this overall accountability. And then it's also the aspect of, I think it's so important to have just strong bonds with the boys. Like actually being able to just be fully raw, like what's going on, good, what's going on a little bit less good, what am I working on? Hey, you don't seem like you're doing that great today, like let's talk about it. And for people that know Lucas is like a philosopher. This guy thinks through every single situation with all the different outcomes, makes the best out of every single situation, and just blows my mind. It's been almost 5 years now that I know him, and blew my mind almost every single conversation I had with him of the way he has a perspective. And now being able to live with that type of person and bring my drive, my energy, that dog, and mix it with that like philosopher kind of looking beyond and that inner kind of, inner peace that he seems to have, has just been such a great match. And now it's like every single day we know that we're also once again together trying to accomplish great things and being able to bounce ideas off of each other. So I think that's probably the biggest value, is the improvement that we've had in our communication skills allowed us to ask better questions and allowed us to use more of each other to go on our own ways, but kind of like together. And we know there's, we have like 6 months left. And we actually had a conversation like 2 weeks ago. Hey man, like we have 6 months left together in this apartment. We're gonna go on, do our things right after that. So how can we make the most out of it? Is there any things that you want to share to me that, you've been feeling, or that you want me to improve on, or that you think we should work on while we have that time? And just being so open. Like, this guy is now part of my family, and just being able to live with people that bring you that type of value, to me, is just almost like a non-negotiable in our early days. Like, if there was a recommendation for people in that, commit now, figure out later type of mindset, would be, why don't you move out with a few boys for a year? Just look at what happens. I think it's also make it or break it. Are those boys going to stick through for the rest, or boys or girls, like, whatever it is, but are those boys going to stick through for the rest of your life? And I think you can get that answer by seeing you every single day in your good moments and your not good moments, when you said you were going to do it, you said you were going to go and do this thing and you didn't do it. Or we both are saying that we're going to go and do this, and we're both doing it and being able to kind of jump off each other. So I think the word that comes up to mind is like momentum, kind of using each other to kind of, I'm not maybe feeling the best, but since you're showing up this morning, I'm gonna show up also this morning. And to us, like, one of the ways we're gonna like represent that is with the ice bath. We have a 3-degree cold ice bath in our back deck, which we both don't want to do every single day. Like, I genuinely will tell you right now, I hate it. I don't hate doing the thing. I hate the mind, the conversation you have before when you wake up in bed, like, fuck, I don't want to do it. But I know this motherfucker doesn't want to do it too. And if I get up and do it, he's going to have to do it. And now we're both starting our day strong, and we're both going to crush it. So that type of mindset really helped me a lot, to just kind of allow me to just drive forward, knowing I can help him, and allow him to drive forward, knowing he can help me. So it's really kind of using each other as much as possible with full, genuine love for each other. I want the best out of you, and you want the best out of me, and we know that. So once you know that with someone, I think using that relationship in a living space while we can. We both did not have girlfriends also, which allowed it to be interesting to not have that aspect in our lives be worked on, and really just focusing on building strong and great relationships. There's just so much value that came out of that, and probably one of the best decisions I've made also of the last couple of years, of just putting myself in that situation. Like, I feel like I need to raise my standards for this guy. For everything he's done for me, for all the fucking hours he's put in, for all the times he answered my calls, for every single time he showed up where he did not need to, or he asked me that follow-up question, or he pushed me in places I didn't want to be pushed. Like we were talking earlier, well, he was that motherfucker for me early on, and I know I can give him value in a different aspect, and he can give me value in different aspects. And I think, once again, it's about my duty of, I'm going to give back by being the best version of myself, of pushing my fucking ass off every single day, and that drives him, because the pressure comes from the bottom. So the more I rise, he's like, oh fuck, I was his coach. Now I need to rise even more. Yeah. So I think that environment to me is just so excited. Like, I'm actually excited now to go and wake up Monday morning. Yeah. Like, hey G, it's 7 a.m. It's ice bath time. We're gonna go win the fucking day together. And that's kind of like the mindset that we now kind of have in our living environment.
That sounds like a sweet relationship you guys have. And yeah, it sounds like accountability is huge for you guys. You tell him you're gonna do something, he wants the best for you, he's gonna make you do it, and you're gonna make sure you do it for him. So, Olivier, from the sounds of it, relationships are very important to you, and you've explained that living with one of your best friends and your coach, someone that you look up to, developing that bond and holding each other accountable has been massively impactful for you. And I think just in the big scheme of things, just in general, surrounding yourself with the right people, I think that's one of the things that makes this program, Student Works, so impactful. You can find the systems on any YouTube video, how do I run XYZ business, but it's really the culture, surrounding yourself with the right people, with the coaching, with the accountability, that allows people to run, massive businesses when they're, 18, 19, 20 years old. And so I'd love to get your take, because I know we've had a few conversations about it. And the question I'd like to ask you is, where do you see the balance between attracting the right environment by working on yourself versus taking intention and seeking a specific environment change and seeking a specific audience for yourself? And which one of those do you think is more impactful, or just how would you personally go about advising someone maybe who wants to seek out this culture, who wants to surround themselves with the right people, and they don't currently have that environment? Would you recommend them starting with just changing themselves and having faith that the right people will come along, or would you recommend them kind of taking action and seeking out a new group of people?
Yeah, it's kind of like, I think I see them going hand in hand, because I don't know necessarily for everybody if it's like one is gonna go before the other one. Because at the end of the day, I think both are going to be required, right? Like working hard on yourself, improving and attracting the types of people you want to attract in your life, I think to me it's just an overall non-negotiable. And you might have to also realize that if you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? Therefore, if I'm saying yes to this relationship, what am I saying no to? I think what's tough is that people don't know what that would look like because they haven't had mentorship to also show them that, hey man, it's okay to, let's say, not hang out with the friends that you have right now for a few months or a few weeks or just a few days or whatever. Maybe people speak every day. Let's take a little bit of time off and see how do you actually feel when you're alone. Like, I think that would probably be the first actual recommendation, would probably be like, spend as much as time possible. And when I'm saying alone, I'm not saying on social media. You're not alone when you're on your phone. You're not alone when you're playing video games, and you're not alone when you're having conversation, like actually alone. I think that would probably be the first kind of piece I would recommend, to just be able to start building that muscle of just thinking alone and then using that to make better decisions. Like, I think I would start with that. And then the whole kind of friendship and environment aspect of things, definitely that, look, the clarity that you have on where you want to go needs to be continuously improved, right? I think we couldn't be able to do what we do if we didn't know where we wanted to go with that. So I would probably start working on, what do you want to build, right? And then you can ask yourself, well, what do I currently have right now? Is there people in here that actually fit in that mold, right? Who fits a bit more, who fits a little bit less? You know, there's lots of exercises you can do on that, which are sometimes a bit like tough to mentally do. Compound effect worksheets also have that. You break down every single relationship you have. There's a book called Compound Effect from Darren Hardy. Great book, and has like full-on worksheets, and that you analyze literally every single of your relationships. Who would go in, like the people I would want to spend more time with, spend less time with, or kind of equal time with, and what are their goals, what are their ambitions, and where does that kind of all fit together? The way I see it, like, this is my life, this is your life, and we also have our life together in like the gray zone, and like who fits where, just like understanding your current situation, understanding where you want to go, and therefore being able to, if you do want to seek out, where are you going to seek out, right? If you don't understand all of those things, you're just going to kind of, I think you can waste a lot of time by trying to seek out things that maybe aren't fully genuine. So I think that's probably like the first thing I would do, is just really try to understand not just where I want to go, but also with who and what type of people, what character am I looking for? Do I want people that push me, or do I want the guys that I can just chill and hang out with, and we don't need to talk about success and money? I love having both, to be honest. I don't think it's only having the dogs in there. I think I want to have a balance, and there's also the homies since day one that no matter what they do, I'm still gonna stick by with those guys, and I also want to have conversations with them to clear up if there's things that doesn't fit in what I want to build, so we can just be very clear. But to come back to your question of improving on yourself and also seeking out, I think it really goes hand in hand. And the improvement on yourself, I think that aspect of clarity is self-improvement, because the more clear you are, I think the better you're going to be at making those types of decisions. And then I would also probably go and seek out as much people as possible, and it's a numbers game. Like, that's maybe what I would see it. If someone, like, we found student works, but I'm genuinely sure that there's other things out there that can bring a lot of value to people if they're asking questions to the successful people in their lives, or the people that have what they want, right? Like, who would you go and seek out to? Well, you need to know what you want. Therefore, you know what you want. You know what you already have, so you know what gap you want to fill. And then that gap, you're going to fill it with people that have it figured out, the things that you want to figure out. That's probably what I would say of, let's say, Student Works was, I want to be great in business. They know exactly what to do to be great in business, so it just made a lot of sense for me to seek out their coaching, seek out their information. But whatever it is, if it's in sports, if it's in fitness, if it's with a girlfriend, you know, like, just really, you have to have clarity, I think, early on, which is a definitely difficult thing. Compound effect worksheets help me also with that, of just spending time alone and genuinely thinking, you know, writing things down. But then I think the creation of that gap would be not being scared of just asking. Landmark comes with, we can go along on that, but just the aspect of making bold requests, of genuinely asking someone for something that might seem uncomfortable or whatever it is. But let's say, for example, hey, can I just spend a day with you? Or can I listen to some of your coaching calls? Or can I have a quick 15, 30-minute call with you? Like, the more of those texts you reach out, or those conversations you try to have, people love to give back to people who want to, you know, grow there's a saying, I think, that the master never laughs at the rookie, or the black belt will never laugh or push down the white belt. So if you're a white belt in the game of life or in the game that you're trying to play, go try to find as many people with the blue, the brown, the purple, the black belts, and try to just seek out information. But those belts in the actual place where you want to go, right? That's probably how I'd kind of loop back that answer of how both work. Like, I think both need to happen if you want to be able to kind of take that next leap of faith, I guess, in there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's an amazing answer. Very well said. Very well said. So Phil and I do have a set of questions that we like to ask all of our guests. And the first one that I'd love to get your answer to, Olivier, is, what is your personal mission statement? In one or two sentences, what is your why behind why you get up every day? What do you want to do with this limited time that you have on this earth?
Yeah. The fact that I get to show up every day and to wake up and to do the things I do, I think it is my responsibility to do it at the best as I can and bring as much people possible in my journey. Like, that's really the way I see it.
That's a pretty good mission statement.
Yeah, that's sweet. I love it.
I don't even know the next question.
Next question for you is, what advice would you give to your 16-year-old self?
Woo! I like that one. The advice I just fucking gave before. Figure out what you want. Ask questions. You can even sit down and ask your parents, like, hey, what are our family values? What do you see possible for me? And what do I see possible for myself? And I actually gave myself advice when I was like, I think 19 years old, and I was making that switch. I was in that apartment, like I was telling, and I wanted to really improve. I actually got that advice tatted on me. I have a tattoo here saying stay focused. But stay focused to what? And that was kind of the answer I was saying before. Figure out what it is, and let's close those eyes. Let's get dialed in, just like the horses have the eye blockers, and let's stay focused. Let's cut off the bullshit. Let's cut all the distractions. There's gonna be a lot of fucking bullshit in the world trying to keep you distracted, man. People are fucking making money off your attention, and I think it depends my level of awareness at 16 years old, right? I don't think I was that aware, so I don't think it would be as easy as it is now to kind of answer those questions. But with the level of awareness that I did have, I think it's really, we had goals in mind when we were 16. We wanted to be successful, we wanted to keep great relationships, we wanted to be free, and we didn't want to follow the status quo. So with all of that being said, let's stay fucking focused on that and not go into, there's so many different distractions or vices that I can spend my whole life working on and never really be fulfilled. So that's the advice I would give myself, and that's the advice I fucking gave myself, and that seemed to have been working on in the last couple of years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Olivier, what do you think is, the one thing that you've changed in the last year or two that's had the biggest impact on your life?
Wow. If there's one thing that I would say I changed the most, would probably be that aspect of self-reflection, of literally like intentional time spent like thinking and being able to answer those types of questions on my own, when I'm alone, to be actually confident to go out in the world and speak my shit with, my hands in the air, with full confidence and with all the, I forget what the word I was gonna say, but being able to spend time thinking is just so important. And the way it happened to me was after my first year, I did $85,000 in revenue. I was not that happy about myself. Like, yes, it's very good in the bigger scheme of things. I left a lot on the table, and I was, you know what, I'm gonna travel. I went for 3 weeks in Tulum with my friends in Mexico and was able to spend a lot of time alone there. But it was COVID, so I came back and I had 14 days alone at my parents' cottage. Once again, gratitude, I have a fucking cottage I can just decide to go to. And I was in quarantine for 2 weeks. And that allowed me to just sit in my thoughts for long enough that I was like, you know what, those are the thoughts I want to double down on, and those are the thoughts I don't want to double down on. We're talking about priorities earlier, of like things that are now priority. Well, that moment of me with myself in my fucking thoughts, clearing up, the things I've started, clearing up the things I want, and just that whole aspect of self-reflection probably has been honestly the biggest game changer. Before I would just whatever comes at me, I'll just go and do it. Thing is, you're in a fucking rat race. Even in the entrepreneurial world, you're in a rat race because you're not figuring out, the later plan. So I'm just always fucking dealing with what comes to me. And so I guess that aspect allows proactivity versus reactivity in all aspects of your life.
If you spend enough time alone, you can't really lie to yourself. Like if you sit down and you actually intentionally think about, okay, what am I missing out on? And as you said, what thoughts do I want to double down on? If you're staying focused and you're cutting out all the distractions, it's pretty easy to figure out what you want.
Yeah, so I think that like the correlation between staying focused, cutting out the distraction actually goes hand in hand with the aspects of spending more time alone. So choosing to, let's say, delete certain apps from social media, choosing to never embark into certain things that a lot of people embark on, a lot of people want, a lot of people find value in, but since you've taken time to actually figure out what you want, here's where I find value, here's why, and I'm gonna do this. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be able to enroll the people who want to jump on the boat. It's your decision. So kind of like that whole idea created a pathway of this is what the fuck I'm gonna go and do. It's gonna be massive, it's gonna be fun, we're gonna have a lot of fun, we're gonna make a lot of money, we're gonna have a great life doing it, be able to impact people coming in here. And instead of always looking for the next thing I can jump on to someone else's kind of game, I'm gonna create my own fucking game with this world. So that was kind of probably the biggest switch with that self-reflection / meditation / just sitting in your thoughts for hours and hours and hours over time.
That's awesome. Love to ask you, Olivier, I know we've been chatting a lot about you and your life and your past and kind of, we already asked you about your personal 10-year vision, but, I'd love to get your take on how you see our society changing over the next 10 years, whether that's technologies or politically or different industries. However you want to take the question, feel free to give a broad or a specific answer, but, how do you see things changing over the next 10 or so years?
Yeah. What comes up to mind is that people will realize that we aren't set up necessarily for the things that we might want to have. The way I would maybe explain it is that if I just kind of sit down and follow the status quo and follow the path that everybody's following in, I'm missing out on so much that I could actually go and create if I decide to actually take some risks, if I decide to do that type of exercises, if I decide to cut out some relationships. So the way I see it, I think the society in the next 10 years will realize that kind of, if I want to create something that's genuine for me, for the people I want, and for our community, I'm gonna have to have some leaders in the society to go in those trenches on, like I was saying, like the aspect of leadership. So I think what we're gonna see is more and more people like us who decide to step it the fuck up, because we need those people to be able to, first of all, fight against the resistance that there is against us, whether it's bullshit fucking food, whether it's all the social media shit, or whether it's just like not setting yourself, and when I say social media, I more say about the overarching, seeing people consume like so much time and so much of their life off social media. And that's where just for me, the transition was like creating versus consuming, yeah, creation versus consumption. I love social media for certain aspects, but I also hate it for certain other aspects. But I think what we will continue seeing is hard fucking men that will become leaders and that will be able to allow some people to follow their path and create, whether it's businesses, whether it's organizations, whether it's laws, to allow, I guess, everybody to reach their full potential. That's kind of like the way I see world. But I also see, that whole aspect Jordan Peterson talks about. You'd rather be a warrior in a field than a gardener at war. And I think I also want to see, actually, the question on what I want to see is what I think is gonna happen. But I do think having people like him, having people, let's say like Andrew Tate, also talk about self-fucking responsibility, doing what the fuck you're gonna say, working hard, and being able to also step up for yourself. I think that's what we're gonna see more and more and more over the next couple years, and I think will create maybe a little bit of a potential problematic of who's in charge, who's in power, and who's telling us what to do and how to do it. What if I say, nah, that's not how it's gonna work, that's what I'm gonna do, and here's the people I'm gonna bring in and create our own kind of paths in this whole society. The way I see it is we need people to step it up and try out new things. We need leadership, we need those types of guys. And I personally think that most of the leadership that we have been having and the whole like political aspect, I think there's a lot of bullshit in there, and I think there's a lot of of games getting played there, with the money and with how you look at and with the fucking news. And to be honest, I feel like the real fucking leadership are going to be people running the biggest businesses, people like Elon Musk, for example, who probably has a bigger impact than some presidents or some prime ministers or something, because people look up to him because he built his own fucking path and had a lot of people with him in that and impacted a lot more and set up certain structures and set up certain rules for his businesses that people, I think, look up to and people want to join. And I feel like what's going to change is people, I want to say that I feel like what's going to change is people will have more opportunities to choose who and what they want to follow versus getting fucking fed since they're young. This is how it is. This is history. This is what you're going to learn. This is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to think. This is what you're going to have. Like all those kind of things that I feel like there's a box that has been created since the day you're fucking born, actually, because that was also implemented in your parents' mindset, right? So I think I want to have what I would love to see also now, just transitioning into my opinion, just being able to have that kind of internal freedom of choosing which leaders I want to follow, choosing which rules kind of make more sense for me. I still want to say, like, it's very important to have rules and laws and regulations, but I just feel like, I don't know, there could be a very huge fucking improvement in having all of us actually agree on those things and actually work towards a bigger purpose. Then kind of, I feel like there's a lot of games getting played in the political world, and I think there's a lot of not fully like integrous and genuine like leadership that comes out of, you know, who's actually running this fucking country and who's choosing the laws. Like I think a big impact of that was COVID, like what all the laws that happened, and there was like a lot of doors that I felt were open to my eyes of, oh wow, like this is the government or this is the people that I'm supposed to give my all and give fucking more than 50% of all my money to. Like damn, that's kind of fucked up. So I think in the next, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc., we're gonna see more and more leaders who will decide to step up and kind of speak out for people who all think the same. And that's gonna create probably a little bit of change in like the politics, but also I think that's gonna create a lot of change in the youth. And in now 20 years, the new generation that will be taught by, let's say, people like you or people like you, or I think that's probably where the biggest change will happen, when there's actually a potential revolution of just how the society was structured or how society was set up, had some flaws, and there's gonna be a lot of improvements that are gonna be made. But at the same time, nothing's perfect. And with those improvements getting done, there's gonna be a lot of shit also that's gonna happen. So yeah, I would like to think that there might be a little bit of chaos that's gonna happen in the next 5 to 10 years. But I think, hard times create strong men. And now we're, hard times create strong men creates good times, and good times create weak men. And I think right now, like the last couple years, would probably be in that phase of good times created weak men, and weak men are creating kind of the hard times that we might be seeing worldwide, and that will create strong motherfuckers like you, strong motherfuckers like you, strong motherfuckers like me, and the guys that we're gonna try to lead, and that will create, I think, a lot of good for the next generations to come.
Cool, man. That's awesome. Any final closing thoughts for me and Phil and for our audience over there?
Well, look, my brain is really foggy right now, like thinking about all those things. I think putting all of that into short sentences, I think, is very interesting. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. I'm actually so grateful to just now using this conversation as a reflection of the next conversations I'm gonna have. At the end of the day, I think the closing thoughts would be, step out of your fucking comfort zone, pull the trigger, figure out what are those things you want to pull the trigger on, have those conversations with your homies, ask the tough questions, and not fuck what people think, man. Do you, choose what you want, stay fucking focused, and you'll figure it out. I guarantee you that. So
yes, sir.
That's probably would be.
Stay focused.
Let's go,
brother.
Thanks, Ollie.
Thank you, man. Thank you, boys.
That's it for closers only.
I like to break down profit into to 2 portions. So obviously you have the price of the job, which has a huge impact on how much money you can make, and then the cost of the job as well, which ultimately defines from that price how much you get to keep.